All right. Did you get it working?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you. I
All
think
right.
that we're in good shape. Let me see if the people that were in the chat originally are still on board. Are you still? Because I had to switch the link, you know? If
Yeah, I
not,
figured that. And then for the storing too, it's probably better because you can always just delete that half one. You know.
yeah, absolutely.
So
So
are we live right now?
we are live right now.
Oh wow, this is like, since we live in a reboot remake culture, this is a reboot of a podcast.
It is. Okay, he says he can hear me now. Welcome, guys.
Woo!
Thank you so much. I'm just going to do a brief recap of the show just so that you guys kind of get caught up to speed as far as where we were at, because I had a little technical difficulties on my end, as to be expected. So let's see. We started off basically just kind of talking a little bit about the fact that I don't spend a lot of time acknowledging those of you guys that come by and support the show. I know that me and Caleb have a lot of fun talking, and we always love hearing from you guys in the chat. So I did want to take a minute to acknowledge Michael Granger, Andrea Burke, Karen Cochran, TJ Brooks, Venice Sports Beach Network, who has been a great fan and somebody who's been extremely supportive of the podcast, Amy Cassie, Cynthia Bonner, Ian Elliot Carter, and Mick Thomas of Intellectual Controverse, who I did a fantastic podcast with last night. You guys stay tuned for that, because there will be a link being shared when they edit all of the inappropriate comments that I made out of the video. I'd like to thank Alberto, Julian, as well as Alex Hampton. You guys all are fucking rock my socks. I appreciate you so much for stopping by. Also, congratulations to Mrs. and Mrs. Tonya and Marcia Sellers. I was able to attend their lovely wedding over the weekend and get some photography done for them, so that was really cool. I hope you guys are enjoying your honeymoon up there in the lovely state of Tennessee. We were kind of catching up on some of the stuff that we've been watching lately. Whatever. We'll skip over that right now because we do got some juicy topics. Yeah, man. Might as well just jump into some news headlines. And, yeah, stick with this. Stick with this. I am. And David Brewington in the comments section. We see you, man. What's up? Thank you for coming by. Kelly Marie-Tran. Every fucking week. Segue. I saw Crazy Rich Asians over the last week. It was good, man.
Is it? Because the trailer looked like the biggest garbage movie I've ever seen, and everyone says it's great.
It's one of those things that, like, everybody's like, oh, we needed a rom-com. We needed a rom-com. And I swear, in the movie, I leaned over to Victoria and I said, here comes the airport scene. And then sure enough, they're fucking running to meet each other right at the last moment before the flight. It's very formulaic. Yes, it's very formulaic. It's got a beautiful cast. It's got a beautiful production design. Good characters. A lot of famous Asian actors like Kim Jong and some other, what's her name, Awkwafina. I enjoyed it. It won me over by the time that I walked out of the theater. It's a 3.5 star movie for me. Great date movie. You know, me and Victoria went and saw it together, but yeah, it was all right.
So definitely not like the 9.5 movie that everyone's making it out to be.
No, hell no. No, it's fine. Okay. It's fine.
Okay. Because like, I was hearing a lot of that, and I was like, I can't believe that. I'm like, I want to see it though now. I'll be curious.
Yeah, it's good. You might as well wait for Netflix or whatever. It was good though, but this week we got another person getting bullied off of Twitter. Well, actually, this is a little bit of a kind of triumphant return story, or at least it's being, posited that way. Kelly Marie-Tran, who was the girl that was basically bullied off of social media over playing Rose in The Last Jedi. Just vitriol, hatred, they're like not being nice, just attacking her as a person, calling her a bunch of racial slurs, saying her character was awful, all sorts of shit. Some of it, you can justify that her character wasn't so great. Yeah, she wasn't great, but it's sad. And she's a young girl who was given the opportunity that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do in the first place, and that's to be in a Star Wars movie and kind of represent something that wasn't, something that wasn't prevalent within the series. And, I don't necessarily care that, people are included just for the sake of inclusion, but I felt like, you know, there was nothing about her performance that took away from it for me, and it definitely had nothing to do with her race, you know, one way or the other. That's just the least of my concerns. But she was bullied off Twitter. People made fun of her with all the different, you know, sexist, racist things that they can say. And she came out and she made a statement. And let's see. One little excerpt is that she says, "I've been tricked into thinking that my body was not my own, that I was beautiful if someone else believed it, and regardless of my own opinion." And it just talks a lot about self-image. You know, it talks a lot about the way that we perceive ourselves, as well as the way that other people's perception of us can affect the way that we see ourselves. And it's just a really human story. I think it was cool that she kind of rose above the adversity to come out and make a statement, you know?
I thought she took a horrible, horrible situation, because even though, like, I didn't like her character, first of all, she's not even the worst part of the movie,
no.
You know? Even though I didn't like her character, that there's no excuse to attack people. I mean, when I see it with anyone, when you see it with, like, Jared Leto, people were attacking him, and you see people with what we just talked about last week with Ruby Rose and all that, you can hate the performance, but you shouldn't hate things, especially if they're racial slurs and sexist slurs. But
yeah,
she took an awful thing, and I read the whole article you sent me, and it was kind of interesting how she talked about, you know, growing up and being Asian and not, you know, feeling like, you know, she fit in, and that this brought back everything, those memories of her being a kid, like when I believe it was her dad delivered food or something like that to the school, and there was just, like, it was a really human, heartfelt story that I think everyone, no matter race or anything, can relate to, feeling ostracized at some point in time, even if it's not on that level. And I found that was actually her comments pretty beautiful and pretty uplifting. I was very impressed with her.
Yeah, there's definitely no, you can react to things the way that you feel adequate, but there's something a lot more empowering about confronting issues head on than to just, like, bury your head in the sand like an ostrich and be like, you guys were mean to me, so I'm going to quit social media, and not acknowledge the fact that there's assholes out there, rather than to come out and be like, yeah, there's assholes out there, but I'm still me, and I'm going to continue to do my thing regardless of them, you know?
Yeah, it's just sad. This is like a weekly topic for us, is people getting bullied on Twitter, you know, or every other week, and it's just like you guys just stop already.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, and then there's also, I mean, there's, God, we're gonna segue into it here in a second, but you mentioned that James Gunn was producing a new horror film. I couldn't find a lot of information, but as I was kind of googling through, looking at other stuff, I saw that Del Toro's gonna be producing a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I don't know if it's a movie, or, you know, it's for CBS Films. And it begins shooting this week. I think me and you have talked about it before, but are you familiar with the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series?
Yes. Is that the book series? Am I thinking of, or am I?
Yeah, it was a Scholastic book series that came out when we were children.
I'm very, with that creepy art style, the black and white art style, with, like, little red and blue. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to be obsessed with those books when I was a kid.
As was I. And what I really liked about, I mean, the biggest thing is what you mentioned first. The thing that makes it so iconic is it's the illustrations. The writing it's fine, but it really did lean hard on that creepy imagery. So my question to you is, like, is there anything about, how is this going to translate? I mean, what would you do if you were asked to shoot a book of horror short stories that leans so heavily into the iconic imagery?
I think, first of all, they did the right thing to get Guillermo del Toro to do it.
Sure.
Because he's a visual, even he's one of those people who, he's very hit or miss for me. Visually, he's always an A+ for
sure.
me, even when I don't like his movies. Like Pan's Labyrinth, I didn't connect with me, but it's beautiful. The creatures are interesting. And he directed Mama. Am I correct in that?
No. He did produce it, though.
He produced it. Okay, that's what it was. Because that the scene with the jump scare in that, where she's, like, all floating under the water, that looks like a scene straight from those books.
Oh, yeah. Man, that's a good point. It really does. when she's like, she's angry or whatever, and then
Yeah,
she just comes fucking flying at her. Yes, dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
That character and the way that that's rendered, if you could see the picture, the graphic that's on the screen right now, it's striking to how similar it is. And I can't remember what the actual story, I think it's the one about the spiders eating their way out of, no, it's not that one. But yeah, so I mean, are they going to go the... Are they going to go the R.L. Stine Goosebumps route and try to give us a story with an overarching narrative that tries to tie in the things? Or are we going straight up Tales from the Crypt or Tales from the Dark Side, where there's a framing device of maybe a character telling you the stories, or some wraparound like they did in VHS, and then each of these little episodic vignettes in between?
They better be doing episodic, little vignettes, because I hated the Goosebumps movie because it was just Jumanji with Goosebumps.
It was.
I just didn't understand that, because as a huge fan of Goosebumps as a kid, and reading them as a kid all the time, and actually, if I know my friend Trinity was watching, if she still is watching, I went to a bookstore with her.
Hey, Trinity.
A couple of years ago, and we looked at Goosebumps books and just went down memory lane, looked at the back. There's so many iconic Goosebumps stories, just like I think right now the power of scary stories to tell in the dark is the same thing as Goosebumps. It is a name, and as long as you can use that name and essentially throw it on anything and just make a good horror film with some very creepy imagery, and it works. It fits under that narrative. I don't even know if you have to necessarily take any of the stories from the book.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't want to do a direct pull, I just, man, I don't know. It's that black and white inky look to it. I know they couldn't actually do, a black and white movie, but I have to agree that if anybody can do, justice to that style, it is going to be GDT and his people. What's kind of funny is that several years ago, and I think they actually went back and corrected it, but several years ago, there was such an outrage over the artwork from these books, and they wanted to, keep it from triggering people, so they had the artist of the Harry Potter covers go in and redraw all of the art from the original book, which is fucking blasphemy.
So they took out the good part of the book, and they left with the garbage part of the book?
Yes.
Why? Why is that a thing?
No doubt. It was bad. I looked at it and it upset me to my core.
Yeah, I've never even seen those. I don't want to see those in my head. That never happened.
Right.
Well, first of all, the Harry Potter art is not good art anyway. No. So why would you throw that on a horror thing? That's just a bad look.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of bad looks, poor old James Gunn can't catch a break over there. I know he had a meeting with Disney, or some representatives had a meeting with Disney about potentially coming back to the Guardians franchise. I don't think either you or me thought that there was a fucking snowball chance in hell that was going to actually happen. No. But I was happy to hear when you told me earlier that it looks like he's attached at least a production level to a horror film that's being kept very under wraps. Do you have you got any scoops, man? What are we going to talk about
I got a little bit, because I'm very excited about this. So as soon as I heard about this, I started digging. There are really nothing on it. We don't know. It's developed by Sony. And
Quality
it's
studio.
Yeah, and so and they're releasing it in November. So from what I read, it's pretty much done, It's in post-production stage. The rumor is it's going to be based on the video game Bloodborne, which is a Sony exclusive game.
Okay.
Which might make sense, which is a gothic noir horror game. It's a game that I actually I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's from Software, which is a stupid name. It's from Software is the name of the company.
No.
But it's the people who did Dark Souls. It's their PlayStation exclusive. It's a very roguelike, go try over and over and over, and those type of games. From what I could tell, someone who only played a little bit of the game, it didn't connect with me. Visually, beautiful, interesting. It seems like it's more of a based on lore rather than a strong narrative. The narrative is more like environmental and that type of thing. Like, there is a story apparently from what I've heard, but I couldn't find it in the game, but
Sure.
apparently there's a story. But it's that type of thing. And I would love to see James Gunn return to horror, but especially if he's in Bloodborne, I don't picture it to be necessarily true James Gunn horror. I picture it to be, if that's in fact true, that I would like to see it lean heavily more into horror instead of something like Slither that does a horror comedy thing.
Yeah, sure.
Plus, we've never had anything like that from James Gunn. You know, there's always a bit of humor in all of his films.
So I know this was not a James Gunn film. It was only James Gunn produced. It came out last year, maybe the year before. I'm not going to be able to think about the name of it right now, but it was basically like Battle Royale in an office building to where everybody had to kill each other. There was
Mayhem?
Yeah. No, Mayhem was the one with Steven Yeun in it from The Walking Dead. This was another one.
Belko Experiment.
Yes, Belko Experiment. Did you see that?
I didn't.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Yeah, it looked like a worse version of Mayhem is what it looked like.
See, and I thought Mayhem looked like a worse version of it, but then I heard Mayhem was all right.
Mayhem is phenomenal. One of the best films of 2017.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a phenomenal film. Honestly, it feels more like a James Gunn type of film. Like, it feels more along the lines of Slither or something like that. It's very campy and it has a personality and a style to it. It's one of those ones that if you told me that was a James Gunn film, I'd be like, yeah, I could see it.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't know why I'm looking at.
I don't know if you're the other rumor, which I'm hoping it is instead of Bloodborne. The other rumor going around is that it's going to be based on the manga and anime Berserk, which if anyone's ever seen Berserk, the computer animated movies, so. The original one is phenomenal. So I'm hoping that's what it's going to be based on.
Well, yeah, I would definitely be curious about that. So guys, if you are paying attention to me right now, let me know what's going on. I'm not sure if everybody had to move over. I still have one person watching, and at one point he said both of you are coming in loud and clear.
One person watching.
It looks like we're in good shape. I fear that we lost your friend that was checking it out. By the way, I didn't even give you a chance. I know there's a couple people on Twitter that are very supportive of you and your ventures, and I didn't know if you wanted to name check any of them or anything like that.
Well, I mean, God, I'm so horrible with names, but I will give a couple off the top of my head. Definitely Martin. I can never remember his name, but it's Martin VR. He has a YouTube channel as well. My good friend Larry at LC Screen Talk, who I've done some stuff with.
Sure.
I am hoping this guy's all right. He's off Twitter and off Twitter and off of YouTube as well. I've seen, but Norville's Nightmares was his channel.
Remember.
Yeah. He's no longer on Twitter, so I hope everything's all right with him, but he's definitely a big one. God, I know there's so many people that I'm forgetting right now. The worst people with Twitter handles. I
definitely am familiar with a lot of the people that you just now mentioned, and yeah, I do hope Norville Nightmares is all right. I think that's it's quite a world where we live in, where you're like, oh man, they're not on Twitter. I hope they're okay. How you ever survive without Twitter? That fucking. Anyways.
There's something about our culture, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, well, James Gunn, man, like I said, he couldn't catch a break. All he did is make some shitty jokes, and everybody's got to preface it. Like, he made some jokes. No, now he's made some vile, reprehensible, indefensible jokes, and he lost his whole job out of it. Yeah, they were shitty jokes, but it's like... God, I've heard so many comedians make shitty jokes, especially at that time. Like me and you have talked about, shock humor was pretty big then. But anyways, that's just one shade of gray. That would be the very lightest shade of gray that I could possibly think of, especially when you compare them to fucking monsters like Kevin Spacey, who, had a pattern of abuse, and somebody that was actually, making victims out of people, not just somebody who was making smarmy fucking comments on Twitter. But Kevin Spacey, man, he was one of the first people to really come out in the allegations involving the Me Too movement. There were multiple people that came out against him. He immediately lost his job at House of Cards, and I believe justifiably so on all of that stuff. He seems like a predator.
100%. That is entirely different than what James Gunn did.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that we would have to delineate is it's just, again, representative of the times that we're in. But Kevin Spacey starred as the antagonist of a film that was released over the weekend, a movie called I think it was called the Million Dollar Boys Club, Billion Dollar Boys Club.
Billionaire Boys Club. And the only reason I know is there's a clothing company that's called the same thing. So,
is that what the movie's about? I
have no idea. This probably speaks to why the topic, but I have no idea what the movie's about.
So it's got Ansel Elgort and Taron Egerton, who either may or may not be stars. I'm not real clear on that yet. They've done a couple of things each, but yeah, I don't know. I was informed about the movie coming out by a friend of mine who huge movie buff. He's got very questionable taste in movies. He fucking loves everything that I hate, which is, it's great. You know, it makes for good conversation. Like, he's like, man, Mile 22 was a 9 out of 10. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
Those are my favorite people that I disagree with 100%. You and me are the same way, where we love talking to someone because I'm like, what the hell were you thinking? And I actually genuinely want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. The graphic that I have on the screen right now is a picture of the entire cast of the movie, and they all look like super solemn, and put a little caption that says, the look on the face of 7 actors, and that's not even counting Spacey, dividing $618. This movie opened on like 10 screens, and it grossed $618. Have you ever heard of something like that?
That has to be a record. I mean, like, in a negative way. I've never heard of $618 for a movie, even a small limited run. Like, that has to be up there, you know?
So is it? I mean, obviously, it's a perfect storm of a bunch of different shit. Do you think that the public didn't go see this movie out of a lack of support for Kevin Spacey? Or do you think that the studios buried it to distance themselves from it in hopes of just like putting their money into marketing in foreign markets where maybe people don't care? I'm just trying to process how this happened.
Studio. Yeah, this is studio. I guarantee you there were talks of, do we even put this out at all? You know, which now look, they probably should have just canned it. And just never seen the light of day, if you know, because they lost money by putting it in theaters. But
yeah,
they probably were like, you know, we have this movie made, we want to distance ourselves, we don't want to put a lot of money behind it in marketing, because what that's going to do is it's going to go out and it's not going to perform well no matter what. Let's just throw it out into the ether and see what happens. A couple of theaters. To me, it seems like studio ran from this.
Yeah, you can't say that you blame them. So I pulled up a list here on Screen Rant. Let me pull up a graphic for it real quick. Yeah. I just now looked up a list of the lowest grossing movies of all time. Let's see, window capture. Can I figure this out real quick? Got you again. That's not.
I'm kind of curious to see, because that has to be. I've never heard of a movie making $600. Like, that's with a mainstream actor, you know, like,
right.
That's like, you can make $600 selling DVDs out your trunk, you know?
Yeah, like, bootlegs.
Yeah, like, I don't get it.
So there's a movie called Serum that came in at $440. No idea anything about it. The Dark Hours, know nothing about it. $423. $222. Actually had what's her name in it? The Aussie girl from. She looks a lot like the girl that plays Mara. Teresa Palmer is what her name is. The girl from Lights Out. Anyways, she was in a movie that made $422. State Park made $421. The Magician. All these are movies I haven't even fucking heard of. There's a movie called Skinless, a 2014 horror movie. That made $400. Let's see.
And well, the thing is, like, you know, probably at the time they signed the contracts with Kevin Spacey, he probably got paid decent chunk of money, even if it's a lower budget film. So
Yes,
they
yes.
probably are just like, they are so upside down on this. That's unreal.
Oh, okay. So here's one Warner Brothers distributed called Trojan War from 1997 that starred Jennifer Love Hewitt.
It's
$309. Phenomenal.
Trojan War it's a phenomenal movie.
Is it?
Trojan War. Trojan War is Superbad before Superbad. Literally the same concept, except for looking for alcohol or whatever they're looking for in Superbad. They're just looking for condoms. It's the same movie.
What?
Yeah. So when I saw Superbad, everybody was like, Superbad. I was like, it's the Trojan War.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person who's seen that movie, apparently.
Yeah, you were the one person that bought it on Blu-ray and covered the entire profit.
Yeah, it could be a garbage movie. I saw it when I was like 14. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But my memory of it was like, but it is. It's super bad. It's pretty much the same movie.
Well, I'm gonna say I went through this whole list. I know you guys saw it come up on the screen, and it ends up that nobody gives a fuck about any of these movies. And that's why they made $400 or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, wow. Wow. I mean, that...
A movie with Jennifer Love Hewitt made pretty much, for all purposes, the same amount of money as a Kevin Spacey movie.
And she was the hotness back in the 90s as far as being popular and being hot.
Oh, yeah, no. I was so in love with her
when
it came out.
Yeah, she was one of the big crushes that I had. She was stacked too, man.
Everyone in our generation, she was one of them.
Yep, for sure. For sure. All right, what the hell are we going to talk about now? Let's get away from all of this controversy. Oh, wait a second. Oh, there's no way to get away from it. Okay, so Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey, one of the first to be accused on a large level, obviously the one before him and the most prolific predator of them all, Mr. Harvey Weinstein. He had so many fucking allegations come out against him all at one time. And two of the most outspoken voices in this whole Hollywood side of the movement were Rose McGowan and Asia Argento, who both claim to have been raped or sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein. To elaborate, lots of women were. I don't know if these two particular women did, but lots of women were. So I'm not absolving him of his crimes. It's pretty well known that the dude's a fucking dirtbag, right? So anyways, recently it was revealed that this huge proponent of the Me Too movement, one of the most outspoken voices in it, was revealed to have made a $380,000 payoff to a 22-year-old man who 5 years previous to that had sexual relations with in a hotel room after prying him with alcohol. Well, I say prying him with alcohol. After the two of them drank, and now all of this has been brought to light. First of all, well, I mean, man, this is a deep topic. We're probably going to spend a little bit diving into this before we do get started. It's hard to properly represent yourself within a confined amount of time. I'm sure that once Caleb and I get off the line, there are going to be many things that both of us wish that we would have said, wish that we would have leaned into and elaborated on, as opposed to focusing on certain parts of it. So just know this is a very condensed, talking head kind of conversation coming from a place that we don't really have all of the insight, but there's some fascinating social shit going on here. So we're going to just give you guys our takes. Please, I'm encouraging you to let us know yours down in the live chat or in the conversation. So, yeah, Caleb, I mean, what are your general thoughts when you hear about this right away?
Wow. So first of all, I don't think, like, because someone accusing, one of the accusers ends up having their own dirt doesn't, like you said, absolve the other person. Harvey Weinstein, still an awful person. And Harvey Weinstein raped women, didn't he? Forcibly?
Yes.
Or am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So
well, that was just one end of the spectrum. There were other times that he implied. I mean, every version that you could think of.
He sexual harassment. But I mean, so I do think we've had this conversation. There are levels. So do I think and I didn't even know her name. I thought it was Asia. I'm gonna call her Asia because that's her name. I don't care how she pronounced it. I thought she was so statutory raping a kid. I don't know if it's not forcible, so it's different. But at the same time, this kid was 17 and she was 37 at the time. As a 32-year-old man, there's no way I would fucking look at a 17-year-old girl, let alone sleep with her after drinking with her. And let's be real, if this came out and the genders were reversed, it would be a much bigger story.
You're right.
Because we do it in our culture. We go like everybody, the teacher slept with the kid, and we're like, hey, good job, young man. You know, like we do that in our culture. And I just think, I don't know. To me, this is a perfect example of Hollywood, and this is why I always tell people, don't fucking listen to celebrities about anything when it comes to how you should live your personal life. You know, whether it's politics or any of it, because they're people, and a lot of them are fucked up people. And I don't know. To me, like at the end of the day, it was a 37-year-old adult with a 17-year-old child, and I don't know if you read the text chain afterwards, where first she denied ever sleeping with him, then that text chain, I guess, really blew it up with her friend, where she's like, well, I felt weird afterward. And you're like, yeah, you should feel weird. You fucking raped a kid. You know, like statutory raped him, but you still did. That's how I take it. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Man, God, it's complicated. I went into an entire antidote last night on the intellectual controversy about how when I was 14 years old, I was at a party of a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, and I took about 12, 14 shots of gin back to back before the party started, completely blacked out, woke up a couple hours later, and my friend's mom was like, hey, do you smoke pot? I've got some in the walk-in closet. My husband's gone on TDY. Do you want to go in there and get high? And we went in there and we fooled around. We didn't have sex. It wasn't intercourse or anything. I didn't come out of the situation feeling weird about it. I fucking bragged to anybody who would listen to me. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the kid that I was. I felt grown at that age. Now, granted, maybe she did manipulate me to the way that I felt somehow empowered or like more of a man because of it. I can't really speak to that. I just know everybody's situation is different. But a 17-year-old boy could throw a 37-year-old woman across the room. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it depends on the size of him and everything like that. But I think that he went to the hotel with the intention of having sex with her. The Asia asked the parents to leave the two of them alone together, and they did. I understand there's social norms different in social places, and Italy obviously is much more open about ages of consent and things like that, and historically it's been a lot different. I say all of that to say there are predators that come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are rapists like Harvey Weinstein. Other of them are fame-hungry people that want to use movement to get them headlines. That's why I always thought Rose McGowan was a horrible advocate for this whole movement.
Yes.
And, you know, it doesn't discredit a movement because one bad person, like I look at Asia Argento, and she dated Harvey Weinstein. They had a relationship for 4 years after this happened. I was really bothered that she put Anthony Bourdain's name out there, considering he can't defend himself or give his side of the story. It seems extremely tacky that Rose McGowan was saying they had an open relationship beforehand. I'm a fucking huge fan of Asia Argento's father talking about zombie movies. He's one of the biggest Italian horror film directors out there. So this is somebody that I've been aware of for a long time, and I hate to just oversimplify, but she is the definition of crazy. Like the kind of bitch you stay away from because she's got ulterior motives. And I think starfuckers are a very real thing. I think that once she put herself out there as this outspoken advocate for gender equality and not being taken advantage of, that this person who's now 22 that's had financial woes is like, oh yeah, I hooked up with her one time when I was 17. I'm going to extort her. And maybe that's just a cynical view of people, but I think that's this specific scenario.
Yeah, and I do think that as well. But to me, like, I just view it as, was what she did wrong? In my opinion, 100% yes. I don't know. I just think of it this, if we took this right now and it was like, it was you or me, we're in our 30s, and there was some kid who liked our content. She was 17. I took her over to my house and we drank together. Yeah, that's pretty skeezy, and I get that the genders change, but we need to come up with, I think we in our society, we need to stop doing this team sports mentality. We need to come up with a baseline. And if it is wrong, it's wrong. If it's not wrong, it's wrong. It's not wrong. And we can't change that depending on the gender of someone, the race of someone, the political affiliations. We need to decide, like with the James Gunn instance, I said my stance with Roseanne and with James Gunn, where neither one should have been fired. They were awful jokes and they were this and, whatever, like jokes is okay. My thing for 37-year-olds sleeping with 17-year-olds is not okay. And I'm a big fan of ideological consistency. I don't like when people jump to and change it. I'm like, no, we have to find out what baselines are. And to me, what Asia Argento did is wrong. And I think, again, doesn't discredit the movement, doesn't discredit the fact that Harvey Weinstein is a scumbag. Maybe discredits her particular thing a little bit.
Yes.
But I mean, it's so many women that there's to be no discussion about it.
Yes, and that's why I fear, like, I don't want to lean too far into the side of the conversation where it's like the woman is the liar, because I'm talking about a very specific case right now, and there's something about the way this whole scenario has played out that has felt very it's just felt opportunistic all the way around. And I read a little op-ed piece. I don't have it open in front of me right now, but it was really fascinating. It was like an editorial written for the New York Times, and it was by an African-American woman who had kind of been one of the ones that actually coined the Me Too movement. Women that had been subjected to molestation, serious sexual assault, being raped by family members and all of that kind of stuff. And then once it kind of got out there were your Rose McGowans, there were your people who wanted to jump out in front of it and become the spokespeople from it. And then all of a sudden, the focus shifts from these women who really had a story to tell and really deserved to be heard, to now all of a sudden, this dude grabbed my ass at a party and it made me feel uncomfortable. Shut the fuck up, you overprivileged.
The height of that was when we talked about Aziz. That was the height of it for me. And I feel like this movement keeps getting blows to it one after another that, I do think there's value to this movement. I obviously don't think we should be groping women or men or, and especially not children.
Yeah.
So there's value to this, but Rose McGowan's hypocrisy about the Asia Argento thing was just unreal to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, because so she was always like, we always believe victims. We always believe victims. Never, it's always the victim's right. Now, the thing comes out with her buddy now, and all of a sudden she's like, well, we need to see what the details are.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, so we always believe victims as long as it's a female and it's, as long as it's not your friend and it's a male assaulter. But if it's your friend and a female assaulter, then we don't believe it. And I'm like, no, again, we need ideological consistency. We either believe all victims, which I am a firm believer of, we believe the truth. I'm not saying stigmatize victims by any stretch, but believe all victims as a general rule, I think is kind of ridiculous.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I wanted to come to that, so I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre to me to go believe all victims. Well, the only way we know that you're a victim is if we go ahead and find the truth. But in order to do that, we need to pursue the truth. Then we can determine you're a victim. You don't become a victim by just saying you're a victim. That being said, do I think there's people who lie about rape? Yes, absolutely. I actually know someone who's actually got locked up because his girlfriend lied about domestic violence. Like, I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's people who lie about like stuff like that. But I don't know. I just feel like it's a bizarre time we live in with this, like, believe all victims, but only if they're for my team.
Believe all victims is the equivalent of forget everything you know about the fact that people are flawed and will tell lies. The believe all victims means forget about all the white lies you told your parents to get out of trouble when you were a kid. Believe all victims leaves no room for flawed individuals. No, I'm not willing to believe all of anybody about anything because I'm not a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I agree with that. It's kind of the same gripe I have when I go on tangent, but it's kind of the same gripe I have when people go, I'm speaking my truth. There is no such thing as my truth.
Your truth means nothing.
There's the truth. Yeah. My truth is a dumb thing that people say to say, well, this is how I feel about it. Then say, this is how I feel about it. Don't say this is my truth, because truth is truth. Fact is fact, and facts matter. Especially in situations like this, where you're talking about the livelihood of men and women, both victims and both falsely accused victims. These are serious issues that have serious implications for everyone involved. So I just feel uncomfortable believing, like, if something came out against like someone I knew that I knew was false, I wouldn't want them to automatically be deemed as whether they were male, female, gay, straight, whatever. I wouldn't want them to automatically not be given the benefit of the doubt because someone accused them. We've turned to a point where the accusation holds all the power in our society. But at the same time, I don't know. At the same time, I'm torn because I don't want to stigmatize stepping forward, because if you have been sexually assaulted, and you should step forward. I don't know. It's a complex, weird thing to me.
No, and you're 100% right. People's voices, they do matter. I think I'm a little bit, maybe backwards. I am a little bit old school about the idea that, I don't want to say that rape is just penetration, because I think that that's a little bit unfair, but I just think about all the times that one of my boys over the years came up and slapped me in the dick and called me a homo, or like came and gave me a credit card up my backside and were like, queer, ha 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 ha, as a joke. And it's just, the culture is just so different now. I'm not saying that what that they did was right, but society's come a long ways since then, but never once did I feel violated. But I guess that's completely relative. I guess it just depends on what your baseline is. But I think you and I, man, we agree on so many things, but I think that one of the fundamental differences, and just in my opinion, you might have a different perspective on this, is that you do tend to see things in a more right and wrong way, like you said, that there needs to be an established order to thing. And I don't want to say I'm wishy-washy, but I think everything to me exists in these different areas of spectrums of gray, everything in between black and white. And if the guy was 18 and Asia Argento was 38, is it still weird? Yeah. Is it illegal? No. So as far as
that's an interesting thing to me too, because if someone who I lost my virginity because I was a late bloomer at like 18 or 19 to a like 35-year-old married woman.
Sure.
And I was in love with her and all that. Do I feel like she intentionally manipulated me? Absolutely not. Actually, I'm still kind of friends with her. I talk to her occasionally. So do I think she intentionally manipulated me? No. Do I think she intentionally took advantage of me? No. Do I think she kind of did? 100%. I was a dumb kid, and I tell you right now, any 19-year-old walks in here, or woman, I can charm them easily. Because I'm a man, I've had a lot of life experience. I know what to say. And I look back to my own experience, and was I a victim in this? No, I probably was. I was interested in her and all that. Would I ever get into that situation now, or would I talk someone out of that situation now? I'd be like, yeah. And but you're easy to, because all of us at 17, 18, 19, we're all dumb. Every person. I don't care who you are, you're dumb. Yeah. And I don't know. To me, I do think I'm a little more like right is right, wrong is wrong. I do think there's levels, though. I don't think what she did is like forcible rape, but it's to a child, so I don't know if it's worse or it's better. I think maybe we should just, not be fucking kids.
Yeah, right. And yeah, it's not like you have a definitive stance like that on everything. I feel like, when we have these conversations, I think you have a stronger
I would agree.
sense of I don't want to say a sense of self, like a sense of moral fortitude that sometimes mine wavers. I'm a little bit of an inconsistent person, and I do notice that about myself.
It's
because
funny, even politically, you can tell like where we more line up. Like I consider myself center right. I consider you like center left.
Yeah.
And both of our personalities kind of make sense.
Yeah.
You know, where we are. I'm a little more like, this is the way everything breaks down. This is how society works. And you're a little more, hey, and that's I think a fascinating thing, because right here, this conversation is just how different people are and what makes these conversations so difficult.
You ever sit around and just think like, man, wouldn't it be so freeing? And not that I don't absolutely love talking movies with you and we should continue to do this, but if once a month we just did something completely different, completely focused on just talking about whatever the fuck we wanted to, and just do it on its own channel or whatever,
for that, man, because I love thought experiments, and this is like my channel. I've actually thought about changing more to a personal thing. Like after I did the weight loss video where I talked about one of the most freeing, unreal videos I had a video called "Unconditional Love is Fake," where it was more of a thought experiment on the term unconditional love and how I disagree with it, and I think unconditional love is unhealthy, and how I think it's actually self-destructive when you believe in unconditional love. And like those are my two favorite videos that I have, because they're not just talking about movies. Yeah,
absolutely. It's great to get a little bit of insight into the people that you pay attention to. I'm so happy, and I don't even know if you were aware of this, but there is a Collider morning show now on Collider, and it is old school schmoes know. Like, it is so not the new corporate shitty Collider. It's like the whole old school team just in there fucking cutting up. Huh?
Just flying off the cuff and saying whatever pops in their head.
Yeah, it's great.
That's podcasting to me.
Yeah. I wish we just had that many friends that we could bring on at any given time, but scheduling's tough, man,
It's rough, man. And honestly, like, one of my friends that I would think that I used to do a podcast with, I think you would love her and she'd fit right in with us. She has a kid now, and so like she always has a baby attached to her, and it's like her, I'd be like, yeah, we should get her on because she would love this stuff. But it's scheduling's hard, man, and especially when everyone's in different parts of the country. She's in like North Carolina, so
yeah. I mean, me and you are on other sides of the of the country, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So it's so freaking hard to figure all this out.
Well, I mean, I know you've talked about it on your channel. You and I have talked about it, but it really is an inspiring story. Give us the 2-minute rundown or the 5-minute rundown about the weight loss journey and how that all came about, and how it has affected your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I when I turned 28, I was 410 pounds.
You're a tall guy though too. First of all, right?
Yeah, I'm 6'5".
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a big son of a bitch.
You only look about 3 inches on the screen for some reason.
It's funny because everyone who watches YouTube, because I always have my chair real low, and so the background, they'd be like, "I didn't know you're that tall." I'm like, "No, my fucking head is giant. I wear size 8 baseball cap. I'm just a giant." But so I was 410 pounds. I was 28 years old, and suffered from childhood obesity my entire life. My family is morbidly obese. My mother, father, brother, all of us are. We have very unhealthy eating habits. My wife is in excellent shape, always has been. And we started talking about, when I was 28, about, the future and having kids. And I was like, it's hard being morbidly obese as a child. I have back issues. I have all these problems that I shouldn't have, but it was because I was so heavy as a kid. And I never blame my parents. I don't want to say that, but there is a direct correlation between my parents' eating habits and my eating habits. They pass them on to me, and I continued my unhealthy lifestyle. Past a certain point, obviously, ownership is all on me, 100%. But it's better to start off with a clean slate. So I was thinking about having kids, and I was like, I don't want to start them at a disadvantage to where they look in the mirror when they're 28 and go, fuck, I need to lose weight. So in the course of 9 months, doing no surgery, just diet and exercise, I lost 185 pounds.
It's incredible.
And that was just literally, my wife would wake me up every day. I'd go running 4 in the morning. I'd run to the gym. I'd work out. I'd run back. And I used to actually run until I started dry heaving. That was my rule. I wouldn't be able to turn around until I started dry heaving, which when you're 400, it's literally like a
couple blocks. Yeah.
Puke your guts out. But as you got in better shape, it would get better and better. And then so I'm 32, so it was about 4 years ago that I lost all the weight. I've gained from my lowest, I've gained about 20 pounds, and actually I've been eating incredibly healthy again because the slippery slope, next thing you know, 20 turns into 50, and then it's back to 100. But honestly, it's been incredible for me. But there are a lot of, I would tell this to anyone who is in the process of losing weight, there are aspects of your life that are going to get massively better when you get heavy. However, when you lose weight, massive improvement. However, I sunk into a horrible depression when I lost all the weight, which seems counteractive to everything that you would assume, because it's like a weird realization that like everyone had been treating me different, specifically women.
Sure.
Like people like to think that the body positivity movement and all that, only fat women get shit. No, fat dudes get crap, and from women. Mm-hmm. A lot of times from fat women. A lot of fat women will want to date really built guys.
Nah, fat dudes are the same way sometimes.
Oh no, it's really real. I was one. I was 400 pounds. My wife who's smoking hot.
Yeah, I feel you.
And it comes from an insecurity, because now if I were single, I totally don't have those hangups that I used to, and it's because I'm confident in myself. And I think the same thing happens for overweight women. It's a thing. I'm unconfident, so if I can pull someone who's attractive, therefore it validates my attractiveness, because look, I got them.
Oh yeah, sure, I get it.
That was me, so that's why I always went that. And then my wife is a doll, though. I mean, she's the love of my life. I didn't just marry her because she's beautiful, but she is. But yeah, man, 9 months, man, I lost 185. It was a bitch. It sucked. I hated working out every single day, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
So how long of it? I'm a little dude, kind of trying to go the other way. I mean, I'm tall, but I need to gain some weight. I need to get in the gym and kind of hit it hard. Like, how long of that journey was like hell to adjust to?
I would say 9 months of it.
Really?
Oh, that was awful.
So I got 9 months of hell to look forward to if I ever want to get in shape.
It was bad. It literally, so the thing that I've realized, and I tell this to everyone, I actually just had this conversation with a dude on Snapchat. He was talking to me about it the other day. And he's like, hey, did you do gastric? I was like, hell no, I'm very anti-gastric.
Sure.
And the reason why is obesity is a physical manifestation of a mental disorder. So if you get gastric, you fix the physical manifestation, the side symptom of your mental disorder. And that's why people gain it back. They didn't address the actual problem, which is you have a weird connection to food. You have probably some depression, in my case, some OCD and depression at the time. And you don't address any of that, and you go straight for the body. Well, that'll make me happy. And you're like, no, it won't, because you still have all your crazy shit up here.
Yeah, and of course.
Just a side effect of you having a weird relationship with food and addicted to food and an unhealthy lifestyle. So yeah, so I used to call myself, it's weird. So I used to be a raging alcoholic. I'm pretty sure I told you this at one point in time. And losing weight was way harder, way 10,000 times harder than going sober.
Really?
Like 9 day. Like once, and I went sober after I lost the weight. Well, I started actually because of the weight loss, because I didn't want to be drinking and eating all night. But I really went sober after I lost the weight, and it's weird. It was like pretty easy for me. I was like, well, I'm just going to stop drinking. And I think because of the self-control I learned from weight loss, it just carried right over into another unhealthy part of my life.
Well, that's fantastic, man. If you guys want to get more information on that, make sure that you head over and check out Caleb Says Stuff's YouTube channel and let them know I sent you. It's always good to hear from you guys. Most of the reason why we do this show, obviously it's great to talk to each other, but we don't need to do that live to do that. We do it because we want to share the conversation with you guys. So if you have any suggestions, comments, ideas, criticisms, positive affirmation, social security numbers, bank routing numbers, any of that stuff you want to leave down in the comment section, we'll be happy to read it later on. You know, I wanted to just kind of touch on one last thing before we do go ahead and close this thing out. We're hitting about the 55-minute mark on the second actual podcast, the real one. And that is when you look at a Harvey Weinstein and then you look at a Asia Argento and you look at the power dynamic, you know. Harvey Weinstein was somebody that she looked up to in the industry. He was her elder. He was somebody that had power. You look at this guy who, unfortunately, I keep leaving out his name. I need to go ahead and look it up real quick. His name's Jimmy Bennett. You look at somebody like Jimmy Bennett, who acted as Asia Argento's 7-year-old son in a movie that had come out years ago. So she almost had a maternal role. She was an older actress, more experienced, had inside connections. So again, kind of a power dynamic thing there. You look
he
at
also
this,
called her mama.
yeah, and that fucking creepy. That's some Oedipus complex shit.
What the fuck?
Yeah. She loved it too. You know she did. Sick
I
bitch.
know she did. Yeah.
And then you look at, you know, this huge scandal with the Roman Catholic Church recently, and you think about, you know, 967 confirmed cases of boys whose lives were affected forever by these men who they trusted. You look at teachers who have an affair with their students. This is not something that's exclusive to Hollywood. This is something that happens all over the world all the time. In some ways, people could perceive it as natural selection. That doesn't mean it's not flawed. It doesn't mean that we don't need to evolve past our animalistic urges. Obviously, we've come a long ways in society since then, but I say all of that to just basically say that, you know, it doesn't... You see with police abusing their power, you know? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. People who get power often are going to abuse it because they consider it one of the perks of having the power. And until we can find a solution to being human, or like exactly what you said, Caleb, like find a... I mean, there's laws. As long as we can walk within the social norms and conform to the social norms, whether we agree with them or not, then the world can be a safe place. But, you know, it's often the people who have the most trust you know, assigned to them that have the opportunity to do this shit. So yeah, not to be doom and gloom. There are way more great people out there than they are bad people. There's way more Boy Scout leaders in there to be a positive influence than there are to molest your kids. But those fuckers are out there too. So just keep your eyes out for predators of all kind. Don't put yourself in a situation where you could later be extorted. And yeah, it's kind of my thoughts on it. Anything else, Caleb, before we close this thing up?
I think that's a great thing to close it out with. Honestly, I was like, I couldn't word it better myself.
Well, thank you so much for coming by. As always, it's a huge pleasure. Thank you guys so much for coming by to check out this week's edition of the Movies Are Terrible podcast. If you can't tell, Caleb and I have been doing this pretty consistently for the past couple weeks. Finally got a graphics package that I'm pretty happy with. I think we got a good show. Now, it's up to you to make us famous. No. Share the projects, guys. Help us get the word out. It means so much more when you're like, man, that Jeremy and Caleb, they got some dope shit going on, than when it's like, hey, me and Caleb have got some real dope shit going on. Because what else am I gonna say?
It's much better when someone else says something good about us than ourselves.
So yeah, hook us up, guys. Help spread the word, help spread the love, and support independent media. I'm Jeremy, and on behalf of me and Caleb, be terrible.